Hello everyone. Welcome to Everyday Essential series of Shantha Lakshmi IAS Academy, where we are going to discuss important topics from the Hindu and the Indian Express, especially with respect to the prelims perspective. So today let's deal with the topics of 8th August 2025. First, we are going to deal with the election to the office of the Vice President. And second, about the International Organization for Migration. And third, about the chikungunya virus. And fourth, about the Monetary Policy Committee. And finally, African country mapping, that is Eswatini today. So starting with our first topic, that is the election to the office of Vice President. So why we are discussing this now? So we already witnessed that on July 22nd, our 14th Vice President of India, that is Jagdeep Dhankar, has resigned from his office by writing a letter to the President of India. So that's how now the office of the Vice President is vacant in India. So regarding that, the Election Commission has issued the notification for the Vice Presidential election that is going to be held on September 9th. And for that, the last date for filing nominations is this August 21, and the date for the scrutinization of the papers will be the August 22. And the last date for the withdrawal of the nomination is August 25. So now let's see what is the procedure of this election to the Vice President of India. So Article 67. According to the Article 67 of the Indian Constitution, it says that the Vice President term of office is the 5 years. But now the 14th Vice President, despite of having his 2 years for the end of his tenure, he resigned in the midterm. And regarding that, if the office of the Vice President is vacant, Article 68 Clause 2 tells us that the election be held as soon as possible. Election be held as soon as possible to fill the vacancy of the office of the Vice President. And Article 66 tells us about the Electoral College. Electoral College for this election of this Vice President, which includes the members of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And in that also all the members, that means elected as well as the nominated members of the both the houses of the parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And Article 66 Clause 1 says that this election will be held with the proportional representation by single transferable vote, and that too in a secret ballot. So who is the authority to conduct the elections to the Vice President of India? That is Election Commission of India is authorized to conduct the elections to the Vice President of India through the Presidential and the Vice Presidential Elections Act, as well as the Presidential and the Vice Presidential Elections Rules 1974. So as per this act and the rules, the Election Commission of India will conduct the elections to the Vice President of India. So coming to the procedure, the nomination includes for the nomination, it will include the 20 proposers as well as the 20 seconders. And for the election, for the person to contest in the election of this Vice President, he or she has to deposit Indian rupees 15,000, and this depository is mandatory. And who will conduct this election? The returning officer is the Secretary General of this Rajya Sabha, and it will include other observers also. And this proportional representation by single transferable vote, right? This election is, and that is conducted by the ECI supplied special pens. ECI supplied special pens. And in this election, the first preference vote is compulsory. Each person or the members of this, the voters, those are the members of the both houses of the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, they must take their first preference vote. And in this election, see, no party whip is allowed. So what does this party whip means? The party whip is the person who will dictate the terms to the members of the political party, right? So in this election, the party whip mandate is not observed. The candidate candidate can vote independently irrespective of the decision told by the whip. So here, if the whip says that yes, all the members of this political party should vote for this A only, but here the candidate belonging to this political party does not necessarily bind to the decision of this whip. He can vote independently of his own choice. And here also the violation of the secrecy. We told that it is conducted through a secret ballot, right? So here the violation of the secrecy or the use of this unauthorized pen will invalidate that vote. And coming to the eligibility criteria, who will be able to contest in this vice president elections? He should be the first citizen of India. He must have completed the age of 35 years. He or she must become qualified for the election as a member of the Rajya Sabha. Remember, Rajya Sabha. So this is the election procedure to the office of the vice president of India. Now, second, coming to the International Organization for Migration. Yesterday, we saw about this UNHCR, that is with respect to the refugees. Now, we'll deal with this organization related to the migrants or the migration. So, why we are discussing that? See, this organization, United Nations related International Organization for Migration, confirmed that at least 68 migrants dead and 74 went missing after a boat carrying 154 Ethiopian nationals capsized off the coast of Yemen on this August 3. So that's why we are dealing with this International Organization for Migration. This is just the context. Why I included this topic is to yesterday we read about this refugees, right? Refugees High Commissioner, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Now, so today let's learn about the International Organization for Migration. So it was established in the year 1951 after the Second World War in order to deal with the issue of the migrants who have fled the Europe post this World War II, and it is part of the United Nations. So what is the purpose of this International Organization for Migration? That it promotes the humane and the orderly migration, and it is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. Yesterday's UNHCR also headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. And it also has the liaison offices, that is at the New York City and the Addis Ababa. And its three objectives include saving lives and protecting people on the move. Those are the migrants. Saving lives and protecting people on the move, and also driving solutions to the displacement related problems also, and facilitating pathways for the regular migration. It will also look into the pathways, the routes for the regular migration. Now coming to the history of this International Organization for Migration. See, in 1951, this was established as this name, that is the Provisional Intergovernmental Committee for the Movement of Migrants from Europe. So after this World War II, this agency was specially concerned with the migrants of this Europe only. Yesterday's UNHCR also originally mandated to deal with the refugees who fled the Europe, right? So this initially started as this Europe. And in the 1952, it was changed to Intergovernmental Committee for the European Migration. And in the year 1980, it was changed to the Intergovernmental Committee for Migration. So now its scope is included not only for the European migrants, it now looks into the migrants all over the world, migrant issues all over the world. And here till 1980, it was told as this Intergovernmental Committee. But now in the year 1989, it became the International Organization for Migration with 175 member states and the 8 observers. So this is about the UNIOM, that is the International Organization for Migration. Now coming to the third topic, that is the chikungunya virus. So why we are discussing this? See, China is battling with this chikungunya virus. Now it is battling the deadliest epidemic in this largest deadliest epidemic in the China. Many members of the China citizens are many Chinese citizens are being affected by this chikungunya virus. So regarding that, the Chinese authorities are using many ways to curb that. That includes the using nets, spraying insecticide, and even deploying drones also. Even deploying drones to fight the mosquito-borne chikungunya virus, which has infected thousands of people. See, authorities had reported that more than 7,000 cases of virus were reported, mostly from the southern Chinese manufacturing hub of Foshan, which is some kilometers from the Hong Kong. So now we'll see what is this chikungunya virus. So it is a mosquito-borne viral disease. It is a mosquito-borne viral disease caused by the chikungunya virus, which is an RNA virus, single-stranded RNA virus. Remember, it is caused by the chikungunya virus, but it is transmitted by the infected female mosquitoes. Those are the Aedes aegypti and the Aedes albopictus. These both are the transmitters of this dengue and the Zika virus also. Dengue plus Zika virus. So, if the uninfected mosquito, first it is a mosquito, if this mosquito goes and bites this infected person who is infected with this chikungunya. So, chikungunya, and now what this mosquito will also get infected from this person, and in this mosquito the virus will get replicated, and now this becomes the infected mosquito and it will now go and bite another person. That's how it spread. And if this person is also infected, right, if anyone comes and close in contact with this person, he will also get infected. So that is the transmission process of this chikungunya virus. So what are the symptoms? The symptoms are mostly visible around 4 to 8 days after the bite of this infect. Within a range of 12 days, maximum within 12 days, the symptoms will be visible. Those are the abrupt onset of fever, which is accompanied by the joint pain, and the joint swelling, muscle pain, headache, nausea, fatigue, and the skin rashes also. So these are the symptoms of the chikungunya. Mostly it includes fever accompanied by the joint pains, mostly joint pains only. And how it is diagnosed, that is the blood samples, through the blood samples done through this RT-PCR, that is the reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction. And coming to the treatment, yes, there is no specific treatment for this chikungunya virus, but it can be treated with the general fever and the joint pain related drugs. And two vaccines regarding this chikungunya disease or the virus, two vaccines have been in use, but mostly in the limited countries and the limited regions. So this is all about the chikungunya virus. Now moving to the fourth topic, that is the Monetary Policy Committee. So why we are discussing this? The Reserve Bank of India's Monetary Policy Committee, chaired by the Governor Sanjay Malhotra, decided to keep the benchmark repo rate unchanged at the 5.5%, maintaining a neutral stance. So the repo rate has been with this 5.5% only, but there is no change. So what is this repo rate? In our previous everyday essential series, we have discussed about this repo rate, reverse repo rate in detail. And now it's your homework to go and revise your repo rate. Now we'll deal with the Monetary Policy Committee. So it was established by the Section 45ZB of the RBI Act 1934, which in turn was amended by the Finance Act 2016. So this act was amended through this Finance Act 2016 and constituted this MPC, Monetary Policy Committee. So why we have constituted this committee? What is the purpose? That is to fix the benchmark policy rate, that is the repo rate. For why? To contain the inflation, within the specified target. So what is the inflation target? That is 4%, right? The inflation should be within the 4%, with the ranges from plus or minus 2%. and this is constituted by the central government. So who will include in this monetary policy committee? It consists of the 6 members, 3 members from the RBI. So in that, one include the RBI governor, who is the ex officio chairperson, and second comes the deputy governor of RBI, and one member is appointed by the RBI board. So these are the 3 members of from RBI, and 3 members are appointed by the central government, and these members will have a tenure of 4 years. And coming to the chairman of this monetary policy committee is the RBI governor, who is the ex officio chairman. And this RBI governor has the casting vote. He initially does not vote in the initial case, but if there is any tie, he vote in this casting vote. And the quorum for the decision is 4. These MPC committee meetings will be held at least 4 times a year. And what about the decision of this MPC? So this MPC's decision, Monetary Policies Commission decision, is binding by the RBI. Remember, it is binding. Now coming to the 5th topic, that is Eswatini. So till now we have discussed about the South Africa first, next Namibia, next Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique. And now let's see the border of this Mozambique, that is Mozambique and the South Africa, that is this Eswatini here. It is a small African country. It is this Eswatini. And see, till now we have discussed 5 countries, right? Out of these 4 countries, that is Namibia, Botswana, and yesterday's Mozambique and South Africa. And through these 4 countries, the Tropic of Capricorn passes. Now coming to the Eswatini. So regarding this Eswatini, we also discussed this topic in our previous Everyday Essential series. Why? Because recently United States President Donald Trump has deported many illegal immigrants or the illegal criminals from the US to this country, Eswatini country. So it is a landlocked country in the southern Africa. You can see here it is a landlocked country, and it has only 2 borders, that is the South Africa and the Mozambique here. Its capital is Mbabane. Before Eswatini, this is known as the Swaziland. This Eswatini was known by this name Swaziland initially, and its official languages are the Swazi and the English. One unique thing about this Eswatini is it is ruled by an absolute monarch rule since 1986 by the King Mswati III. So this Eswatini is an absolute monarchic country since 1986. And the major rivers of this Eswatini include Lomati, Komati, Umbuluzi, and the Usutu. And it is also a developing country. It is a member of the United Nations, African Union, and the Commonwealth of Nations also. It also maintains a very good relationship and trade with the US. It also trades with the United States of America. And here, culturally speaking, this Eswatini has mainly 2 dances. That is the Umalanga, which is a reed dance. This Humalanga is performed for 8 days with the reed sticks, and this Umalanga is also performed by the unmarried and the childless women. This is a festival of the unmarried and the childless women of this Swaziland or the Eswatini, which will be performed for the 8 days with the reed sticks. Next dance includes this Inkwala, which is the kingship dance. So they will perform this dance on the coronation of this king. So that's all for today. Thank you.